A frontline fighter jet disappears from radar during a routine training mission, and within hours, search teams are combing forested hills in northeastern India. The aircraft is a Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, one of the most advanced fighters in India's arsenal, and a backbone of the country's air power. The crash occurs in the remote district of Karbi Anglong, roughly 60 kilometers from Jorhat, after the aircraft had taken off earlier that evening. The immediate question is simple but deeply consequential. Why do incidents involving some of India's most important combat aircraft continue to occur despite decades of modernization efforts? What makes this incident significant is not only the loss of a high-value fighter platform, but the broader strategic implications for operational readiness in a region where military aviation plays a critical role in deterrence and surveillance. Northeastern India borders both China and Myanmar, placing it near sensitive geopolitical fault lines. Any reduction in aircraft availability affects patrol cycles, pilot training hours, and rapid response capabilities. If accidents begin to cluster in a short period, analysts often begin asking whether deeper systemic pressures, maintenance capacity, aging fleets, training tempo, or procurement delays are placing strain on operational units. The aircraft involved, the Su-30 MKI, represents a major pillar of India's air combat capability. Developed through cooperation between Russia's Sukhoi Design Bureau and India's aerospace industry, the twin-engine multi-role fighter entered service in the early 2000s. Over time, India assembled more than 270 units under license production led by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. With a combat radius of roughly 1,500 kilometers and the ability to carry air-to-air missiles, precision munitions, and cruise missiles, the aircraft is designed to dominate both air superiority and strike missions. For years, it has served as the backbone of India's fighter fleet, filling the gap created by the gradual retirement of older Soviet-era aircraft. The incident unfolded during what was described as a routine training mission. According to official statements from the Indian Air Force, the aircraft departed from Jorhat at approximately 7:42 p.m. local time before losing communication. When the fighter failed to return at the scheduled time, search and rescue operations were initiated across the region. Local reports described flames and thick smoke rising from the crash site after the aircraft impacted the ground. Investigators typically examine flight data recorders, weather conditions, engine performance logs, and pilot communications to reconstruct such events, though conclusions often take months. While any military aviation accident can occur due to mechanical failure, human factors, or environmental conditions, the broader context of recent incidents has drawn attention. Only about 10 days before this crash, a HAL Tejas experienced major structural damage after overshooting a runway at a frontline airbase. In November of the previous year, another Tejas aircraft crashed during a demonstration flight at the Dubai Air Show, resulting in the loss of the pilot. These events do not necessarily share a direct technical cause, yet their timing creates a perception of operational stress within the fleet. India operates one of the world's largest air forces with more than 1,700 aircraft across fighters, transport platforms, and helicopters. However, the composition of that fleet reflects decades of complex procurement cycles. Many aircraft types originate from different countries and generations of technology, requiring separate logistics chains, spare parts inventories, and maintenance expertise. Analysts frequently point out that such diversity increases the complexity of sustaining readiness levels. When supply chains slow or spare components become scarce, aircraft availability can decline even if the platforms themselves remain technologically capable. Another factor often discussed in defense circles is squadron strength. The Indian Air Force has long maintained that it ideally requires around 42 fighter squadrons to cover the country's vast territory and dual-front strategic concerns. Yet in recent years, the number has remained closer to 31 or 32 squadrons as older aircraft retire faster than new ones arrive. This gap means remaining platforms are sometimes tasked with higher operational tempos. Increased flight hours, while essential for pilot proficiency, can also accelerate wear on airframes and engines if maintenance capacity does not expand proportionally. Consider one possible scenario. If accident investigations determine that the crash stemmed from a specific technical failure, perhaps an engine component or avionics subsystem, the response could involve fleet-wide inspections or temporary grounding of similar aircraft. Even a brief pause in operations for a large portion of Su-30 MKI squadrons would ripple through training schedules and readiness calculations, especially in strategically sensitive regions. Military planners would need to rebalance patrol patterns and allocate additional aircraft from other bases. Now consider a different possibility. If investigators find that the crash resulted from a combination of environmental factors and pilot workload during night training, the response could focus on procedural adjustments rather than technical fixes. Training missions might be redesigned, additional simulator hours introduced, or operational guidelines refined. In that case, the broader fleet would continue flying, but with modifications intended to reduce similar risks in the future. These possibilities illustrate why aviation accidents often become catalysts for institutional learning within military organizations. Air forces worldwide maintain elaborate safety review systems precisely because complex aircraft operate at the edge of aerodynamic and technological limits. Each investigation adds data that can reshape maintenance protocols, pilot training, or procurement priorities. The goal is not merely to identify a cause, but to strengthen resilience across the entire system. As investigators analyze the wreckage in the hills of Assam, the broader question remains unresolved. Was this event an isolated tragedy within the normal statistical risks of military aviation, or does it reflect deeper pressures inside a complex defense system? The answer will shape how India adjusts its air power strategy in the years ahead. For observers watching from outside the region, the outcome matters because air superiority, deterrence, and regional stability increasingly depend on the reliability of the aircraft that patrol these contested skies.